Hey everyone, and welcome to SkillCapped. A surprise patch 2.1 dropped today, and an even bigger surprise was that it arguably contained more changes than patch 2.0. There's a big nerf to one of the most powerful agents, and the map split has had a massive overhaul, completely changing how it's going to be played. Trust me, you do not want to miss this one. Now, for our question of the day, what change are you hoping to see in the next Valorant patch? Is it a buff or a nerf to a specific agent, balancing a gun, or adding a new one? For me personally, I think the game is actually pretty balanced right now, and I would love to see more content added in the form of a new gun or new map. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, as I'd love to hear your thoughts. Alright, so jumping straight into the big nerf of this patch, Jett is having her smoke duration decreased from 7 seconds to 4.5 seconds. And here's what Riot had to say on why they did this. In a continuation of the controller changes from patch 2.0, we felt it was important to consider Jett smokes as well. In patch 1.0, we increased Jett smoke duration to 7 seconds from the then 4 seconds, and we are partially undoing that now. We found that the result of that change was that Jett became a substitute for the controller role, and reasonably aggressive teams could make use of her cloudburst smokes to quickly take space without relying on a dedicated controller. This is part of a pattern of duelists superseding more utility-focused agents that we will continue to look at in the future. It's important that Jett can use her smokes to create temporary windows for the high-action plays that define her style, but those windows need to be brief enough to ensure that controllers are where teams look for team-focused vision blocking. Alright, so yeah, what Riot is saying here isn't just a bunch of words to try and justify the nerf and hopefully make Jett mains a bit less sad. In pro play, this was actually happening and a real issue, especially in the North American pro scene. Jett was becoming a borderline mandatory pickup on all maps, and we saw how this extra smoke allowed pro teams to opt into duelist-heavy compositions. And I have to say, I do think this is a smart nerf, as Jett is widely considered to be the most powerful agent on high-ranked solo queue. She's basically the best solo carry agent for high elo. The high-ranked players and pros know that Jett needed some kind of nerf, and by lowering her smoke duration, you keep all the duelist elements of her kit but make her utility just a bit weaker. I also think that this nerf helps balance her at a higher end of solo queue and pro play, but doesn't really impact her as much in the lower ranks. To give you guys a bit of context, Jett prior to this nerf was probably at the top of the S tier. This nerf probably puts her to the bottom of the S tier or high A tier, basically really similar power level than before. This is just a slight nerf to her. What do you guys think though? I would love to hear the community's thought on this nerf. Do you think it was good, bad? Would you have wished to see something different? Let us know. And before we jump into the absolutely insane changes to the map split, remember what you find here on our YouTube channel is just a taste of the hyper improvement system on our website SkillCapped.com. It's there you'll not only find over 700 premium Valorant guides, but we also have an expanding library of live Smurf commentaries, a feature no one else offers. These are games by some of the top Valorant players breaking down how you too can climb out of every rank in Valorant, ranging from Iron to Diamond. And all of this can be unlocked with no risk with our rank improvement guarantee, so click the link in the description below, head to skillcapped.com, and get the rank you've always wanted. Alright, so heading into the huge map changes for Split. The first being increasing the width of the B main doorway with the addition of a head height level box. Riot had this to say about it. This should make the space easier to navigate for attackers, and make it more difficult for defenders to stall attackers in the choke point. There is a crate for attackers to utilize on the other side of the doorways as cover, which allows for utility to be thrown into the site from a new angle. And yeah, this change is definitely a big deal. I'm immediately thinking of an agent like Cypher who had specific setups with his tripwires and one-way smokes, which probably either no longer exist or are much weaker. Overall, this is a huge buff to attacking B site on Split. But that's not the only change, not even close, as they also added a small trash pile you can stand on outside of B main. This will give defenders a sightline over the box into B main. I can see agents with mobility like Jett holding this bit of an off angle with an operator and then dashing out. It doesn't stop there though, as we have more changes inside of B site itself. You can see they've changed the stairs at the default plant location. Not only that, they've actually increased the plant zone boundary. No, this won't mean that you can plant at the bottom of the stairs, but you can plant further to the left on the new area. This specific change is pretty small and really shouldn't impact much besides just making things look a bit different visually. However, that's not the case for the addition of these new double boxes in B site. These are fantastic, as it will now break up a vertical 50-50 angle when you peek into sight from B main. It will also offer a new piece of cover that will allow you to isolate angles more effectively. For For those of you who know about the peeking technique of slicing the pie, then you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, then what are you doing? Check out one of our angle or peeking guides. They've also made this change outside of B site at alley, where they reduce the depth of this corner. This is actually a big deal, as now attackers who get the plant down can push into alley with way more safety, as they don't have that 50-50 angle to check as they move out. And if this wasn't enough, they also removed the cubby just a few feet further to again allow more safety when pushing through this area. All of these changes to B site and around B site are huge buffs to attackers. Not only is B site going to be easier to take, but once you do take it, that push into alley is going to pay off a consistent amount of the time. But the changes don't end there. If we head over to the middle part of the map, we can see they've increased the width of the vent room entrance. And I actually think this is a buff for the defenders in this case, as it gives you not only more angles to hold from vents to look down into mid, but it also means if the enemy pushes from mid to B heaven, you can kind of look out of the doorway, see a lot more before you commit to actually pushing the flank. On top of this, they've also added a sloped wall in the vent room, and at first this does seem like a nerf to defenders, as it removes that 50-50 check when entering vents from mid for the attacking side. However, this slant will also protect you from wall penetration from mid. So now holding angles on the right side of vents looking into mid as a defender is way more viable, since you can't just be wall banged as you try to hide in the corner. They've also simplified the ramen and scuttle area. This will allow players to push through this area without having to rely as heavily on utility. And I think this is actually a big deal, as this is a common rotation path for both attackers and defenders when attackers try to hit B site from B main. Not having to check all these angles means you can rotate a lot faster. They've done something similar to the other side of mid in sewers, where they reduce the depth of the cubby in the sewers to allow pushing through the space more safely. Same idea, rotations are now safer, which means you can move faster. And next up, we have some absolutely insane changes to A site. First off, check out these changes to A heaven. They've increased the width of the doorway to A tower and reduced the safety of defenders in A tower. They mentioned the goal of this was to increase the value of controlling A ramps, and boy, is that a true statement. Increasing the size of the doorway is massive, as you have a much wider sightline from ramps into A heaven. This is going to make it so that the defender from vents who wants to rotate to A heaven is going to be in a much more dangerous position, as a ramps player can kill them when they try to pass through the doorway. Before this change, they could just jump on the box and be hidden by the door. In addition to this, changing the corner on the left to a slant means that positions in that corner or near rafters are much weaker, as you'll now be exposed to top of ramp angles as well as ropes. Out of all of the changes we've seen so far on Split, this one is going to have one of the biggest impacts. I mean, you can already just see from these screenshots and videos how insanely valuable ramp control is going to be now, and getting ramp control is pretty easy to get already as attackers. Moving on to inside of A site, they've adjusted the angle of the sloped wall by reducing it. This will allow the back corner to be cleared slightly earlier by the attackers. The developers did note that the angle is still safe from A heaven, but it can be cleared now by stepping out onto rafters without having to drop down into sight. This spot is actually a pretty common off angle people play, and it's pretty nerfed now since it can be cleared earlier and easier. And lastly, they adjusted the wall depth near screens. This will allow defenders in retake scenarios to move out of screens more safely without having that 50-50 angle they have to check when moving into sight. This is a great change, as it still gives an off-angle position to play for those attackers in the post plant, but you no longer have to deal with that really silly 50-50 angle when you move in as a defender. Wow, so yeah, these changes are massive to Split. So what does all of this mean? Well, these are huge buffs to the attacking side. Both B site and A site have been changed, where attacking and entering the site has been made easier. Additionally, Split should play a bit faster now in terms of rotations. They went through and removed a lot of 50-50 angles that would slow down your rotations or flank pushes. So specifically, just straight B hits from B main are going to be easier, and following that up with an alley push in the post plant will be very strong. And going for ramp control, cutting off the vent rotator from getting to A heaven from mid and clearing into A heaven will have a lot of value now, while pushing onto sight will be a bit easier with that off angle inside of sight nerfed. Defenders did get a little bit of compensation with the vent changes in mid and the removal of 50-50 angles when you do push the flank from mid, but that's pretty minor, and so when you factor in all of the changes, they are definitely a buff to the attacking side overall. What do you guys think though? Do you like the changes? Do you think they went too far in some places or wish to see a different change? Let us know in the comment section below. Moving on, we have some quality of life changes. They've now added the ability to hide custom game results from the match history. This is mainly aimed for the pros who practice and do scrims in custom games to prevent other players from scouting their team compositions and strategies. And with the big Challengers tournament coming up, they wanted people to be able to practice without this concern. They've also added some social updates on this patch, where the Add Friend button now exists for teammates only, and the option of adding enemy players has been removed completely. In addition to this, any teammates with privacy or streamer mode enabled will not have their add friend button near their name. So obviously this is to prevent from someone salty on the enemy team from spamming friend requests after the game to flame you. It's also nice that they added the option to hide the add friend button to teammates, as before you had to auto reject all friend requests, which mean if you wanted an actual friend to add you, you would have to go into the menu to disable that, let them add you, then re-enable. Overall, just a good quality of life change. They've also changed queue restrictions for AFKing in-game and during the pre-game. They said they wanted to make sure that folks that are having connectivity issues aren't harshly penalized, but those who are purposely AFKing receive harsher penalties. With that, they will be adding AFK forgiveness for a certain amount of rounds, but repeated and extended occurrences will be penalized with higher queue restrictions. Now, Riot doesn't specifically mention what these queue restrictions will be, but it's a safe guess that you will be given a longer timer before you can re-queue again, or maybe even lock you out of ranked and force you to play a few normal games first. Either way, I'm all for seeing harsher penalties for AFKing, as it is a problem I've been seeing on the rise as more of the player base has started to realize there aren't really that many harsh punishments for doing it. And finally, we have some big bug fixes, and boy was this section needed. Just check out our other news video on all of the bugs that ended up shipping with patch 2.0. So here are all of the bugs that they fixed. They fixed an issue with rank promotion and demotion indicators overlapping players' rank on the career page. They fixed a bug that would cause either a radiant icon or an error message to show during the end of game screen instead of the correct rank details. Side note, find that bug absolutely hilarious. Imagine promoting out of bronze and suddenly seeing that you're radiant. They fixed a bug where Reyna's Leer would not display on the minimap correctly. This next one was a massive bug on the patch. They fixed a bug where credits wouldn't be properly refunded after selling a gun that a teammate bought. They also fixed a bug where off-screen flash visual effects would display incorrectly. They fixed a bug where Phoenix's starting location would briefly be displayed on the minimap after being killed in Run It Back. I've actually personally encountered this Phoenix bug quite a bit and was confused as to whether that was his real location or not. Fixed an issue where Omen's reforming visual effects didn't line up where he actually appeared when using Shrouded Step. I ran into this bug a lot too, that got me killed more than once. Fixed Jett being able to trigger the diffuse sound while dashing, and fixed Omen being able to trigger the diffuse sound while teleporting. Both of these bugs or tricks made the rounds on Reddit where players could overlap the abilities and bomb diffuse sounds to make it seem like they're diffusing when they actually just used an ability to change their position. So yeah, this was a big kind of nerf and change. Fixed issues that caused Yoru's fake out decoy to persist in the world after his death. Fixed an issue where Raze's boombot could be placed through some walls, and fixed an issue where Omen could have his gun equipped while forming during Form the Shadows. Both of these two bugs were super common on the recent patch and game breaking, so glad to see that they're in here. And finally, they resolved a regrowth number UI not updating as Skye used the ability, fixed the fire rate stacking issue when a player is in one Brimstone Stimpak while another ends, and fixed Skye not properly showing the callout region that she's in. And that's all of the bug fixes on this patch. And remember, if you want to improve, win more gunfights, and get the rank you've always wanted, then check out our hyper improvement system at SkillCapped.com, link in the description below. Alright, so what do you think of the changes? Think they're a step in the right direction or not? Maybe there were some changes you were hoping to see in this patch. Let us know in the comment section below. And while you're down there, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get more premium guides just like this one with one goal in mind, helping you become a better player. We here at SkillCapped want to thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.